How's it going, everybody? So we have a fun review today as we're talking Heartstopper Season 3. Now, I've probably said this before, but covering this show probably is one of my favorites amongst all the different shows that I cover on the channel. Not only just because this show brings me a lot of joy, but I enjoy the overall community around it. That being said, though, Season 3 is just a complete whirlwind of emotions where this next season goes for all of these characters. Much of this season still has all that fun, cute romance, but at the same time, Season 3 is all about maturity and growth. Regardless of the adversities put in front of them, each of them are trying their best to discover who they truly want to be, even if some of the obstacles they overcome are some more serious ones. We have seen this show tackle a lot of serious subject matter in the past, but the first half of Season 3 is very much heavy on the emotions pertaining to Charlie and Nick's relationship. That isn't to say it is all heavy material, though. The spark between the two of them has never been better, and I continue to love how affectionate they are no matter the situation. From the very start of the season, it is incredibly endearing watching Charlie being so nervous about telling Nick how much he loves him, and how scared he is that Nick won't reciprocate those feelings back, which myself and everyone around him thinks that's insane that Nick wouldn't love him back, but it does lead to an adorable romantic outcome in the end. Those type of intrusive thoughts that Charlie has, however, is one of the main cruxes of Season 3. Something that we had seen him struggle with even last season, but is a focal point of the narrative of the entire season due to it leading to him having an eating disorder. Subjects like this, along with mental health in general, always are a tricky thing to navigate, but you can tell there was a lot of care put into Charlie's storyline. I will admit, though, if you're someone that is easily triggered by storylines pertaining to eating disorders, anorexia, etc., I think this might be kind of triggering to you, so I just want to let you guys know that up front. Joe Locke brilliantly goes through this heart-wrenching journey of emotion that's really difficult to watch just in general because Charlie is such a sweet character. Throughout the season, we really see him go through the whole gamut of emotions dealing with his eating disorder. While he tries to deny anything is wrong, lashing out at people, letting those negative thoughts fester, we as an audience feel similar to Nick in just the fact that we feel helpless, not sure what to do in the situation, while watching Charlie spiral out of control about his body image until he finally accepts that he needs to seek some type of treatment to get help. Episode 4 in particular, in my opinion, is probably the best episode of Season 3 by a large margin, as it really peels back the layers of Charlie's mental health struggles and recovery process from his eating disorder, and getting Nick's perspective and everything while he's trying to support Charlie, and it switches between the two of them and gives both their perspectives on the situation. It's probably one of the most emotional and realistic portrayals of an eating disorder I've ever seen in any media, but I will admit that it will be triggering for many people if that's something that you've dealt with in the past or know someone that's dealt with that, and definitely bring some tissues because it is probably the most emotional out of the entire season for me. For as much as Charlie goes through this season, it can't be said enough that Nick also goes through quite a lot, being the main source of Charlie's support. It's evident just how much he truly loves Charlie by the amount of care he puts into doing anything he can to just learn and figure out the best ways to help him understand and support his recovery. At the same time, however, it is clear the mental and physical toll all of this stuff is taking on Nick, since he's putting all of his energy into making sure that Charlie gets better, worrying himself to death about his health, even when he's on holiday or when he's trying to have fun while Charlie's in recovery, basically disregarding his own health or what he wants to do, fearful it could impact Charlie, the decisions that he makes for his future, like deciding to go away for university or stay closer to home and be closer to Charlie. All of that growth regarding their relationship does strengthen a lot of the back half of Season 3, where things more or less are back to as close to normal as they can be, but tackling some other big subject matters like a lot of these kids are now trying to have sex. Which I gotta say, this season overall does get pretty spicy when it comes to that aspect. I mean, it is still pretty tastefully done. They are high school kids after all. But pretty much everybody in this show is experimenting in some way. Charlie, Nick, Tao, Elle, Tara, and Darcy. And one other character that was kind of a surprise that I'm not allowed to talk about or spoil who it is, but you might have an idea who it is. It isn't Isaac, though. I did kind of feel bad for Isaac because he is kind of the third wheel, and that is something that he is very annoyed about. When it comes to Isaac, though, I do like, however, that the show continues to explore him being asexual and aromantic, and the fact that he's pretty open about it in general. That's something that you don't see in a lot of mainstream media. And to that point, almost everybody's relationship in this show has some aspect to it that is unique, and the way that it delves into that exploration of sex in general. Nick and Charlie are two young teen boys trying to have sex for the first time. Elle, of course, is trans, and that presents her own awkward feelings of dysphoria about being intimate with anyone. And there's Tara and Darcy, where Darcy is kind of exploring whether or not she feels more non-binary than just straight up female. When it comes to Tao and Elle's relationship storyline, I don't think it's as well balanced compared to everyone else's, and I think a large part of that, unfortunately, is due to the fact that Elle Elle is at a completely different school now. I mean, she still is around a lot to hang out with them after school. It's tough sometimes how they juggle her into the plot as it's mainly its own separate entity. Nevertheless, I still for the most part liked Elle's storyline in general and where it went. Tackling her blossoming art career, taking her relationship with Tao to the next level, and in turn the further exploration of her being a trans woman, exploring love, affection, and the pressures that she feels from that in society as a whole. For as much of a goofball as Tao is, in a similar way to Nick, I do appreciate just how supportive he is of Elle. It's kind of heartwarming how understanding he is of everything. Occasionally he can be a bit overbearing, fearful that Elle's going to leave him because she's at a new school now, but it's admirable how open he is to listening and learning about any struggle that she may face. Out of the relationships, I do think unfortunately Tara and Darcy's is the weakest. A large factor in that in season 3 is I think just because of the fact they spend most of the season apart from one another, due to Tara feeling stressed out about life in general and figuring out her future, while Darcy's figuring out her home life and dabbling into her potentially being non-binary. As fantastic as this main cast for Heartstopper is, the supporting cast is just as phenomenal as well, and it bums me out that Olivia Colman is not in this season. I mean, they explain why kind of in the show. Even still, it was a bummer that she wasn't in this season. In general though, I liked all the new additions. Hayley Atwell probably is one of the best ones as Nick's aunt. Not only is she this very posh, friendly presence when Nick goes on holiday, her openness and understanding of Nick's struggles and how badly he wants to help Charlie is very emotional. The scene between the two of them on the beach where she acts as a sort of guide navigating Nick's emotions and giving him advice on how to better support Charlie is one of those many scenes that I warn you about that you're gonna probably need to bring some tissues for, just because it really does bring on those emotions. I gotta admit, for as excited as I was about Jonathan Bailey joining the cast in season 3, I was kind of underwhelmed, although it's not because of his performance or anything. He just doesn't have a whole lot of stuff to work with. He was incredibly charming in his few sequences as Jack Maddox, and I howled at how flustered Charlie and Nick are about him being so incredibly hot. However, he's only in a handful of scenes in one episode, and that's kind of it. Charlie's sister Tori, who's been around since the very beginning of the show, probably was my favorite supporting performance. I think she really comes out of her shell in season 3. As standoffish as she appears, she breaks out of that shell a lot this season in showing how much she cares about Charlie and his well-being, defending him and giving him as much support as she can. Also, there is the added bonus of her potentially having her own romantic fling that starts up towards the latter half of the season that I am intrigued to see how it develops further. Like season 1 and season 2, season 3 has a pretty fire soundtrack. I'm kind of scared to talk about the soundtrack this time around. I don't know if you guys were around when I talked about season 2 of the show, but I hyped up the soundtrack for season 2, and then I ended up on Pop Crave and Pop Bass, which was pretty surreal for me, but I'm still going to talk about the soundtrack just because I do think it deserves mention, because you have some other great tracks on season 3. You've got songs from Biba Doobie, Muna, Grimes, Billie Eilish. One of my favorite Olivia Rodrigo songs plays over top of a birthday sequence in the show, and that's just my personal favorite of all the different songs on the soundtrack. There's actually a lot of other great ones too. Even though season 3 definitely takes a more mature tone for all of these characters, I still feel like most of the main ingredients that makes this show so special are still here. Charlie and Nick have plenty of sweet romantic moments, especially with where things leave off, seeming to head towards another big chapter in their future together. Weirdly though, I don't know how to describe it, but the season kind of just ends. There's a lot of unanswered questions that are still left lingering for a season 4 that we don't get any answers for. Don't get me wrong, I was pretty happy with where the season concluded. It just didn't end in a big punchy way or leaving off on a big lingering thing to talk about, much like in season 2. Still, either way, I think Heartstopper season 3 is another fantastic season of this show, and once you get a chance, check it out when it hits Netflix in a couple days. I'd love to know your thoughts down below. What'd you think of season 3? Did you like the season? Did you not like the season? And thank you guys, as always, checking out videos. I always do appreciate it. Make sure you like on the video and also subscribe to the channel so you update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. But the next time, I'll see you guys later.